Seattle trip.
Here we go, and good morning. Welcome to B Cube Sunday morning. And it is the last Sunday of the month, and that means it's a special Sunday. That means we get to gaze admiringly upon the visage of one Jim Wright, soon to be joined by David Gerrold, who is going to join us very shortly, or he's going to send me a note and say, let's just go on it with an audible version of David. Now, there is a real special reason why I'm super excited about today. We are 2 weeks away from releasing, or actually on January 20th, when we were releasing, a new book that has in the table of contents one Jim Wright. And he explains to us about how thrilled he was on election night. And also one David Gerrold and Brenda Cooper, who, by the way, Jim, would be thrilled to come on and do a podcast with you.
Awesome. That'd be great. I love Brenda Cooper. I think she's amazing.
She is an amazing person. And
hell of a writer.
That she was on last week, and we talked about that. But then we got also setting in that incredible table of contents. It, like I said, is Brenda Cooper, Louise Marley, and one young writer who we just got his first submission, and I'm just over here editing, laughing my ass off. It's going to be an epic book.
What's it called?
So, what are you up to today, Jim?
What's the name of the book there, Bob? Maybe we should.
The name of the book is actually Alternative Liberties, and it turned out it started out as Retribution and Revenge, and then we decided we couldn't do that to an administration is dedicated to the kindness, to helping people and the poor, as the Trump administration is going to be. You know,
oh God,
I have to say, when the guy you're putting in charge of immigration and bragging that you're going to put in charge of immigration is at the same time as you're talking about him off speaking to neo-Nazi rallies, do you think somebody in our freaking news media might have had the god dang balls to say, excuse me, sir, this guy's wearing the wrong uniform to be serving in the United States?
Well, I mean, there was a time where being a Nazi or advocating fascism or, wearing a uniform, waving your hand, a presidential candidate speaking admiringly about saying that, that Hitler did some good things. I mean, that would be an immediate disqualification. But then again, I would say that being found criminally liable, or I'm sorry, monetarily liable for rape at one time would have been a disqualification. But we don't live in that America anymore.
Where is that freaking America?
Yeah, I'm not saying that we haven't elected rapists before. I'm just saying that, in public. God, it's so horrible, and it's, again, I there's a point where well, my dad was a sailor too, and he used to talk about shoveling shit, and to be honest with you, that's how I feel. And I've been exhausted since November. I'm more tired now. I'm liable to be even more tired. I might be so tired on January 21st I can't get out of bed because, again, none of this stuff is a surprise. None of it's new. I mean, Trump's busy talking about annexing Greenland and invading Canada. And people are like, and the news media, at first the news media is like, well, just ignore him. That's just right. That's how he is. He just talks like that. And now you got his potential Secretary of Defense on the news this morning talking about, no, we're serious. We're going to if Greenland doesn't, if Denmark doesn't sell us Greenland, we're just going to take it. And and suddenly the news media is all sitting up. Oh, what? Nothing new. He's been talking about this for 8 goddamn years. Where the hell have you been? Nothing. I have to tell you, I sit here every day and I look at, again, if you're just tuning in, my desk is an array of wraparound screens, and there are news media feeds on them. And I'm sitting here looking at, I was looking at this guy yesterday, and I forget his name, but he's a prominent voice. He's of Indian descent, I think. He's an immigrant, and he's a conservative who voted for Trump. And the guy's on here, and he's mad. He said, we didn't think he was serious. Now I'm as a Republican, we're one of the good ones. What do you mean? And I'm like, for the love of God, man, I don't know what the hell to tell you. My God, I don't know how you're this goddamn clueless. What did you think he was talking about? But it's not just conservatives, man. I've resorted. I'm reduced to making sarcastic, smart-ass comments on my microblogging feeds. The Threads is a perfect example where you say things like, "Look, here's this guy that's going to be the president of the United States who's literally talking about rolling into the Sudetenland. I mean, dive bombing Poland. I mean, sure, the names are different, but it's the same thing, right? Right? I mean, this is what Vladimir Putin did. He rolled into Ukraine. We literally have a guy that with his finger on the nuclear button that's talking about invading other countries because it's critical to our national defense. Now, I mean, you replace that with the German word for live in space, and the rhetoric is exactly the same. And that goddamn liberals yelling at me about, well, don't repeat what he says. You should just ignore him. And I say, are you serious? You want to ignore this rhetoric? Well, don't ignore him, but don't say anything. What? And I have to wonder if this isn't how 1920s Germany was. This guy, there is absolutely no reason to believe that this guy's not going to do what he said he's going to do. He would have done this stuff the last time, but he had half of Congress opposed to him, and he had for most of his term, he had the Supreme Court opposed to him. None of those roadblocks exist today. He owns the Supreme Court. They might as well just replace the Supreme Court with a bunch of little smiling faces of Trump. And Congress, you've lost the Supreme Court, you've lost the House, you've lost the Senate, lost the White House. There is literally nothing to hold Trump back. And people act like, I mean, this guy is not exactly, this guy is not a bastion of self-restraint. I mean, if he wants something, he reaches right in there and grabs it by the crotch, right? Unless somebody stops him. Well, who's going to stop him? I mean, 15 million of them couldn't be arsed to show the fuck up on the voting day. And that's easy. And I got people on my timeline talking about, we'll fight. You'll fight. You're going to fight. Like, fight, right? Like, take up arms? Is that what you mean? Because you couldn't even fucking vote. And that's easy. You couldn't go down to a polling station and fill in a little dot with a pencil, and you're going to fight. Come on. You're not going to do shit. You're going to do the same damn thing that the opposition did in 1920s Germany, which is either roll over or die.
There's if I can, I don't have a picture, so I can't hold up a hand. I don't know what's wrong with my camera.
Hey, David.
But hey, how are you, Jim? There's a Woody Allen movie. There's a Woody Allen movie, and I forget which one. It's Stardust Memories or Manhattan. And he's in a cocktail party, and he's talking to a whole group of people who they're talking about some Nazi demonstration over in Brooklyn or something. And one of them says, gee, I should write a letter to the Times. And somebody else is talking, we should pass a resolution in the city hall. And Woody Allen says, let's get some clubs and go over and beat the crap out of them. And everybody ignores it. And they keep coming up with a letter to the Times or blah, blah, blah. It's all of this, crap that nobody's going to pay attention to. And Woody Allen says, let's go over and beat the crap out of them. And it was probably a very unpopular moment for a lot of people to see in a movie, but he was right. There is a time, unfortunately, and I hate to say it because you know who I am. I hate to say it, but there is a time when the only way to stop these people is with violence. There is a moment in the book Failsafe, and it's also in the movie version of Failsafe, where the character played by Walter Matthau, a character named Grodeshell, says, if every time the Gestapo came for a Jew, that Jew met them with a gun, they would have run out of Gestapo long before they ran out of Jews. Right. And it is, and that's, again, a very unpopular thing. It's like, oh, no, we can't resort to violence. We're better than they are. But unfortunately, we have reached a point where we may have to go to violence in order to defend what's left of our democracy. I have no idea. I mean, and I hate to say that.
Yeah. And but again, here's my problem with it. And again, I nothing you've said, I disagree. I don't disagree with anything that you've said. It's just that, people tell me that they're willing to engage in violence, but they weren't even when it mattered. I mean, now we're gonna show up and fight. I mean, come on. Well, it was only those 3 states, Wisconsin and Michigan, and I don't know. I tuned out when it became obvious. It's like I have not paid much serious attention to the news because it was outrage exhaustion over here. I can't. It's just I've reached a point where, but I have suggested during when East Berlin was a thing, there was a guy who was painting stones purple and leaving them all over, and it was driving the authorities crazy. And I think we can do the same thing: is paint stone. If you want to resist, paint the stone purple and leave it in front of the city hall. When enough people start leaving purple stones or blue stones in front of the various things, there's going to be a point where somebody's going to notice and say, "What does this mean?" Right.
So.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I don't know what the hell is. And I hate to sound defeatist, but goddamn, man, we have, and again, I get this all the time. People, and I've heard this my whole life. How could this have happened? And we're talking about things like Nazi Germany, which is always the example we all use because that's the greatest horror of our lifetimes. And how in the hell could that have happened? How could people have just stood by and watched that happen? Well, you're looking at it. You're literally looking at it happen right now. And it's not just the people who didn't vote, though there's 100 million of them. It's the news media. This morning, or yesterday, NPR is talking about, Trump's talking about annexing the Panama Canal. Is that crazy? We don't know. But here's a list of all the years that the Panama Canal, ownership of the Panama Canal has been controversial. What? Stop! You're justifying this guy's rhetoric. Is it crazy? Well, it's not really that crazy because we've talked about ownership of the Panama Canal for the last 40 years, and maybe Trump's is a little more extreme, but it's not that crazy. And that's how it happens.
Well, let me point this.
That's how we walk right into this.
Let me point this out. This is not a momentary phenomenon. This is a plan that was put in place back in the 50s when Robert Welch and Fred Koch created the John Birch Society. Fred Koch funded it. Robert Welch was the mouthpiece, and essentially they said, we're going to take over the United States. We're going to take over the courts. We're going to take over the schools. We're going to take over Congress, and we're going to take over the local school boards and the local election system. And this is a plan that has been in place for more than 50 years. And it really, with the election of Ronald Reagan, which everybody, oh yeah, we're going to have a shining city on a hill. You look at what Ronald Reagan's administration put in place, it was all the foundation for everything that we're dealing with now. What happened, the bottom line is the billionaire class bought our media, they bought our Congress, they bought the presidency, they bought the courts, they bought everything because they could invest lots of money in every single election, and they could invest it in propaganda. And they have propagandized this country the same way the Nazis, who was that jerk?
Goebbels.
Propagandized Germany in the 30s to the point that the Germans had no idea. They thought they had won the D-Day invasion. The troops kept rolling forward, but the German propaganda machine was talking about how the invasion was falling apart.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and it's again, you see it. I mean, I see people again. This is what we were talking about before you came online. There that have deliberately deluded themselves. I mean, I see people who are going to be directly victimized by the Trump administration, who the incoming people that surround Trump specifically said that they would target, and yet these people voted for Trump anyway because they didn't think that they'd be targeted.
They were,
and now they're finding out they are, and they're outraged. They're oh my God, how could this happen?
Well, they believed the so-called liberal media, which is owned by conservatives. It's only as liberal as the conservative owners will let them be. But they believed the propaganda that liberals were the enemy. They believed the crap. And there is no way that the progressives, the left wing, the Democrats can counter this avalanche of propaganda. And you have the red states, which are totally controlled by the. And I'll tell you, Howard Dean, way back when he was still head of the DNC, he said there are seats in Congress that are Republican-held seats that are not being challenged. He said, we need a 50-state campaign to challenge every single Republican member of the House of Representatives. Even if they don't win, they will force the Republican Party to spend money to defend those seats. And there are seats that people will vote for. We can regain control of the House of Representatives if we're willing to put candidates up in those red states. And they simply couldn't find candidates. So, but I mean, the Democratic Party has been shooting itself in the foot for 50 years.
Right. And, and again, we're you look at it, I see this in my own community, in the veteran community, and people that I've known for many, many years that I served with, that were smart, intelligent people who were specific. I mean, I come out of a very specialized fraction of the intelligence community. I come out of information warfare, the job of manipulating the enemy through information, using information itself as a weapon. That's where I come from. And the people that I served with were trained in that. We're trained to recognize that sort of thing. We're trained to recognize information operations. And yet those very same people today are sending me emails saying, what happened? Because liberals suck. They hate the military. We can't vote for a goddamn Democrat. And this shit all started way back, but this Trump guy, man, he said he was going to rebuild the military. Now they're talking about getting rid of the VA. And when did this happen? I'm like, for fuck's sake, fellas, you were trained in this. How did you not see it coming? You're on the wrong side. This is, but again, this is the power of information. It's more powerful than a nuclear weapon. It can target a single individual or an entire nation. And you're looking at it, and we're going to find out down the road that a lot of this shit, and I will tell you, there's no greater boon to propaganda and information warfare than the advent of social media, because it allowed our enemies to input information directly into Americans' brains, bypassing all other filters.
Yeah.
And
I would let me
human race is not
let me give you a historical precedent that it is back in the 1920s. The Republicans controlled all three branches of government, and the result was the stock market crash of 1929, because they kept saying, more big business. This is good for business. Business is the business of America is business, blah, blah, blah. And the stock market crashed badly in 1929, and the entire global economy crashed with it. And as a result, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was able to campaign aggressively because Republicans were unable to do anything about that. I mean, Herbert Hoover believed that everything would correct itself if the government kept its hands off. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt campaigned very aggressively and won the Senate and the House and the presidency and was able to transform America. It took him 20 years. Now, that may be what we're heading into, is a global crash, an unprecedented global crash, and a truly charismatic Democrat like Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg is going to come along and unite the country to get rid of all the Republicans. It's possible. That is, we have the historical precedent that Americans will get angry enough at the Republicans when they can't put food on the table. We will end up with people dying. We will end up with millions losing their homes. But if that's what it takes to get people to realize that the billionaires do not have their interest in, that's maybe where we're headed, because the billionaires aren't going to solve the problems of the homeless. They are not. They aren't interested in me. When is these people have enough? Well, I had breakfast. I have enough.
It's an illness. Again, you look at what Jeff Bezos spent on his latest yacht, and he could have. This is a guy that bought himself a yacht. He could have, if he was of that mindset, with that kind of money, he literally could have housed every homeless person in this country, could have fed every hungry person. But rich people don't think that way. That's not how they think. I mean, they would have built a statue to this guy 100 feet tall, plated in gold in the square in Washington, D.C., and sung his praises like next to Jesus for the next 1,000 years. Well, he doesn't see it that way. And it's the same thing with Musk. I mean, when Musk started out, before he, whatever the hell it is, I mean, it's probably, he's busy suing people, so I don't want to be the guy that says he's got a ketamine addiction, but according to the news, but before whatever the current issue with this guy, before he went off the rails, when he started out, he really seemed like that one exception, that billionaire who wanted to change the world for the better.
Yes, he did.
And he passed the point, though. Something happened in there, and it's probably drugs. His personality changed radically. I think he always was a selfish son of a bitch. I mean, look at his background. Look where he comes from, and I think there was always a thin veneer of altruism over top of who the guy really was. But there was a time where that guy really seemed like
he always had good handlers. He always had good handlers.
Right. Yeah. And then he became so wealthy and so powerful and so connected and so whatever is going on in there, whether it's drugs or ego or whatever the hell it is.
I'm going to offer a thought.
I'm going to get as much as I can for me, and I'm going to be the world's first trillionaire, and all you little people don't mean shit to me, and that's just how it is. If I'm going to land a rocket on your house,
he could end homelessness. He could end homelessness and a lot of other things, and still be the richest man in the world. And he could be a hero.
And like you said, he could be a hero. This guy could literally buy himself sainthood. I mean, he literally could do that and still be the richest man in the world. And it's that he wants adulation, but he doesn't want to be admired for his altruism. He wants to be admired. He wants to be feared. And this is exactly Trump. I mean, Trump could do massive good things. He could, but he's not that. He's pathologically incapable of doing anything good. The only thing that he's capable of doing is doing stuff for himself.
Well,
and any good that he does is a side effect, an unintended side effect of him getting something for himself, because that's exactly how these people think. That's how you get to be who they are in the first place, and this is what I can't get through people's head, whether, that the whole point of our kind of government is to hold this kind of sociopathy in check.
Yeah.
You can't fix these people. You're not going to fix Elon Musk. Elon Musk isn't going to wake up one day like Scrooge on Christmas morning and open the window and shout, "Boy, what day is it? Buy me a goose. I've turned over a new leaf. Let's go fix Tiny Tim." He's never going to do that. He's never. He's always going to be. He's going to die the greedy asshole that he is. And so is Trump. They're never going to turn over a new leaf. And the thing is that our government was designed to hold that type of greed and avarice in check. But when you elect businessmen to run your government like a business, then you're the division that's going to get downside.
Yeah, these are people who want to put a profit tax on everything. Well, the post office isn't supposed to have a profit. It's supposed to be a service. And there are a lot of other things. Healthcare shouldn't be a profit mechanism. It should be a service. And the minute they privatize it and put a profit tax on it, it reduces the amount of service that is available. I mean, we see this. Luigi Mangione is a public hero because he made a statement. We may not agree with the mechanics of that statement, but he made a statement that called attention to the inadequacies of our healthcare system. So, and I don't know if they're.
It's crazy. I mean, the fact that this guy is widely regarded as a hero. I mean, I got yelled at on threads where, again, is this really the world that you want to live in, where the way we solve our problems is by assassination, by murdering a schoolyard full of children, by gunning down businesses? I mean, how far, you take that a couple more steps and you're the government of Afghanistan, where problems are solved by bloody violence every day. They're not solved. They're just, anyway. And this was the point of civilization. This is the point of our government in the first place, that change can be effected without revolution, without violence, without murder, without assassination, where our nation and our government can be updated to meet the changing times and the changing centuries and the changing morals and ethics of our civilization without the French solution of dragging everybody out and hanging them by the lamppost. Unfortunately, we've given all that up. The ultimate power in a democracy is with the voters, and you can't convince more than 50% of American voters, even in an election like this one, to show the hell up.
The Democrats have to go out. The Democrats have to break two things. They have to break the monopoly of the red states, and that is doable. And the other thing is to get rid of the Electoral College, which is also doable. There's a compact that a bunch of states have signed. And when more states have signed it than total the number of electoral votes, than total 270 electoral votes, and they're up to 200. When enough states have signed it that they have more than 270 electoral votes, basically they're saying that they will cast their electoral votes to whoever wins the popular vote. And Maine was the last state that was considering it. I don't know if they passed it, but we are something like 60 or 70 votes away from that, state votes. But we have to break the back of the Republican hold on the red states. And that may not happen until we get a charismatic Democrat who has to put the pieces together of a Republican collapse. We could see it as early as 2022. Remember, Trump lost both the Senate and the House in 2018, and he could do the same in 2026. That is, if we still have free elections.
Right.
So,
the problem with all this, and I don't disagree with anything you said. The thing about that, though, is all these changes are doable. They're doable without violence. They're doable without murder and assassination. They're doable without throwing people in prison. But you have to show up. And the only way that you get rid of, I'm watching the comments scroll down the side of the screen. Yeah, there's probably, the thing about the Electoral College is that if the Electoral College votes for your candidate, you want to keep it. If it votes against your candidate, you want to get rid of it. That's how Americans are. But I go back and I look at the the mindset around every election. It's a sine wave. Yay, the electoral college. No. But the bottom line is, to make that kind of fundamental change, you have to win.
Yeah.
And not only do you have to win, now you have to win this election. However the system currently is corrupted and damaged, you still have to show up and you still have to win. If you don't, it's like the lottery. Look, the odds are against you winning the lottery, but if you don't buy a goddamn ticket,
yeah,
you're going to win, right? And so, in this case, I mean, and I saw this before the election, which made me very nervous, and that anxiety was borne out, which were people on the left saying, well, it's all rigged. You can't win anyway. I'm not even going to bother. And there's very much that mindset. But if you don't play, you can't win. And if you don't win, you can't get rid of things like the Electoral College. You can't fix the electoral system. You can't implement the changes that you want. And not only do you have to win, though, but you have to win with people that have the will to affect those changes, even if it causes disruption, even if it causes pushback, violent pushback, even if it causes them not to be reelected. And that means that you have to elect politicians of courage, and that's few and far between. And I say that our side, their side, however you want to shake it out, because you're seeing it right now. You're seeing lefties who, their fist up in the air, they vow to fight. I'll fight Trump. And now that the election's over, they're on a plane to Mar-a-Lago to bend the knee, because it's more important to them to maintain power, to have some vote, to stay in office, to keep getting that paycheck, than it is than their principles. And I'm not saying it's all of them, but there's a significant amount of them. And it's also, this should be an abject lesson to the folks on the left about who the hell they get in bed with, because liberals will get in bed with goddamn anybody who gives them a fucking wink. I'll use Joe Scarborough as an example. I have warned you people for goddamn years about this guy, right? He was Matt Gaetz' predecessor in Florida District 1. He was one of Newt Gingrich's new Federalists. When I bring this up online, everybody on the left says to me, well, everybody deserves a second chance. He's had a second chance. This guy's a scumbag. He's a scumbag. I don't know how to tell you this. He's a scumbag. His wife is a goddamn fraud. And I get nothing but feedback. I get hate mail. Yo, you're unforgiving. My God, you give this guy a chance. Well, you gave him a chance. And he went to Mar-a-Lago and bet the fucking knee. And you see who he really is. And I'm literally seeing people here on the left, not a lot, but a few. You're seeing a rumble. Now that there's this alleged Republican MAGA civil war going on where Laura Loomer and Elon Musk and Steve Bannon are all throwing shit at each other like monkeys on Monkey Island. And I'm seeing people on the left line up. No, stop lining up. They're all scumbags, okay? They're not. There are no heroes on that side. There are no good people, right? And it's all going to shake out. I mean, some of these people are going to get dumped on. I mean, Laura Loomer, I don't know what the hell she's thinking. She's done her bit. She's being discarded. She doesn't have billions of dollars. I mean, if Trump has to, Trump is incredibly predictable in certain areas, and one of those areas is his inevitable gravitation towards power and money. Elon Musk is the richest guy in the world. He's not throwing him over the side. If it was anybody else, they were calling President Musk. If they were calling President Bannon, President Miller, that guy would have been got the Ernest Rome solution months ago. Not Elon Musk. He's the richest guy in the world. Trump is not going to unlock his lips from that guy's ass. It's not going to happen. And this idea that Laura Loomer has said that Trump is somehow going to listen to her over Elon Musk is literally one of the most hilarious things that I've seen in the last week.
Trump believes that money is a validation, and this goes back to I mean, he's a very damaged human being. He was never taught about empathy or compassion. I mean, he was never hugged by his mother. Okay, so here's a guy. Here's a guy who has been looking for love in all the wrong places all of his life and found it in money. The more money you have, the more power you have, the more validation. So obviously, Elon Musk is his hero. I mean, I can imagine him down on his knees servicing Elon Musk's little toadstool, and Elon Musk, bought himself a presidency so he can get away with whatever he wants to get away. And the two of them, I mean, they're 69ing each other politically. And sorry for the visuals, but it's like if you want bad porn, that's it.
At this point, I don't know that you can rhetorically go too far with the visuals. And it's not just Musk. I mean, you're absolutely correct. And it's not just Musk. The parade of billionaires rotating through Mar-a-Lago right now is unending. And somebody said, Charles Shear said, I'm sorry, my screen's a little far away, said we've become a nation of Lindsey Grahams. And that's a true statement because, America, we're capitalists. And again, don't send me email that begins not all, I got it. We're making general statements here. But, America, we've always worshipped power and money. Whoever's got the biggest truck, the shiniest surfboard.
Well, this is not. I mean, the fact is we've been sold the idea that America is the land of the free, the home of the brave, but it's really the land of the thief, the home of the slave. Because basically, I mean, we genocided 100 million Native Americans. We imported another millions and millions of slaves from Africa. Teachers and doctors and leaders of all kinds. We just enslaved them and turned them into field hands. And so the idea that we're a great nation, we're not a great nation. We're a powerful nation that aspires to greatness. And of course, we've just sold our pot for land of a bunch of messages. I got that wrong, but whatever. So it's just, or maybe we're buying our pot.
Yeah, it is. Well, this country, as I said, this massive inferiority complex, and it may be that because we're one of the youngest nations on the planet, but and again, I don't even bad. I served my country for 24 years in uniform, and every time I say things like this, people say, "Oh, how can you speak? How can you say anything America?" It's like you're having your own children. I mean, if you're at times where your child does things that need to be corrected. The people who raise children who think they're perfect and never apply any correction and never allow anybody else to criticize anything, well, you end up with a spoiled, rotten sociopath.
Well, that's exactly what happens. You're a good parent. Let me brag a little bit. Is my son, despite the hesitations and the misgivings of the foster parents and the group home counselors and everybody, they did not believe he would become a functioning adult. He is an incredible human being. You've met him. He's just absolutely incredible young man. Well, he's just turned 40, so he's not so young. But I'm watching him. I'm watching him with his kids, and he's incredibly playful and loving, but he also knows how to say no and set limits. So those kids are going to turn out really well. Of course, they'll turn into teenagers. But
my son's a father himself. Now I'm a grandfather. My grandson's going through the twos. His terrible twos are pretty mild. He's a hell of a.
I've met him. He's a wonderful little guy.
Yeah, and he's amazing. He's awesome. He's in the house. He's actually spent the night with us last night. He's in the house right now with my wife, raising hell and tearing things up. But again, you're right. Again, my son's an incredibly loving, affectionate father, but he applies correction where it's needed. You can't do that. There are limits, and children grow up with limits. We all have to have limits living in society, or you're basically a wild animal. And this is what you see this a lot online. I see nowadays, now that Trump has won the election again, if you follow some of these men's rights advocates, that kind of thing, that kind of mentality on like Reddit and TikTok and some of the social media sites, these guys really don't have any limits on themselves. They don't have any limits on their desires or their instincts. They just think that women are there for their, women shouldn't have any rights. They should basically be livestock, to be
let me suggest something here.
These guys not like this, but well, hang on. And these guys are just incredibly self-centered, in the moment. It's raw meat and protein and the biggest truck and how many bitches you can nail.
Let me suggest something. Let me suggest something. Wealth is it's a sickness in that you never learn how to be independent. Now, I grew up in a home. My folks were poor because of the Depression, but my dad worked himself into a very successful position. I grew up in a home where I had to learn how to do dishes, take out the trash, mow the lawn, etc., and take care of myself. So when I got my first apartment, it was like I knew how to clean, I knew how to cook for myself, all of this. If you are wealthy, you never have to learn how to clean. You never have to learn how to cook. You never learn how to do anything for yourself. You have a driver to take you places. And so you get separated, disassociated from the mechanics of living, and you take it for granted that you have servants to do things, and it gives you a distorted view of your place. I'm important because I don't have to do that. Well, those things are the mechanics of life, and being able to take care of yourself is what makes you independent. It is not your money that makes you independent. Your money makes you a slave to your money and to what other people can do for you, but it doesn't make you independent. And this is the illusion that Trump and Musk and all these other very, very wealthy people live in. And I'm not speaking from, I'm making this up. I have known some people who are very, very wealthy, and they are unable to understand a lot of the things that those of us who have street smarts, we know how to do. It's like my son will go out, he will fix the car, he'll get the right tires on it, he'll fix the this, he'll fix that. He's mechanically and street smart, and he is intelligent in a way that somebody with a gazillion dollars will never understand what it takes to keep your life working. And this is what Trump and Musk and all these others are missing. They are missing the mechanics of life that the working class people have learned. And when the working class people are deprived of their mechanics of life, we have seen it before. And I want to have this, is what overturns tyranny is not violence. There's somebody posted a list of 30 tyrannies that were overthrown by nonviolent means, including the Soviet Union. And it is possible, very possible, that sooner or later somebody's going to invent a way of nonviolently ending this madness that the United States has become. I don't know what it is. I wish I were that smart, but I do know that we have hundreds of millions of people in this country who are smart, like Jim Wright, who will figure things out. I hate to sound like Heinlein. When Heinlein was 80, not because Heinlein was dumb, Heinlein was smart, but when Heinlein was 80, he said, "This is your problem to solve. I'm not going to live long enough." And I'm about to turn 81. I don't know that I will live long enough to see this resolve. I certainly hope I get to see Trump put up in front of a brick wall in a firing squad, because that would make me very happy. But in the meantime, if we can overthrow this tyranny nonviolently, that will make me a lot happier. I don't care if Trump goes off to, what was that island? Elba. I don't care if he flees the country. I don't care. I want him gone. I want him away from and all of the billionaires have got to get out of politics and return this to a country that belongs to the people. And I have said this more than once, that if we're to be a country that is of the people, by the people, and for the people, we have to be accountable to the people. And I'll stop there.
Right, and that's it. You can't have, when I first joined the military, they don't teach us anymore. It's different now, but I don't want to be one of these veterans just like back in my day. But when I first joined the military, they taught leadership as authority, responsibility, and accountability. As you are promoted, you're given more authority, but you're also given more, you also have more responsibility and accountability for that.
Absolutely,
authority.
yeah.
And
the same thing
over time, and that's always
the same thing applies to other structures with the personal effectiveness trainings that I have been a part of. You didn't get to be a team captain unless you knew all the jobs of everybody on your team, and you didn't get to be a junior trainer unless you could handle a whole training, because you had been a team captain and you had done all the jobs. And the same thing is, as you said, you didn't inherit just the authority, you inherited the responsibility to make sure everything worked. And when I was put in charge of the room to run some trainings, I learned that very, very quickly, that my job was to make sure everybody got the results they walked into the room expecting. And that becomes the responsibility. And it is not, oh, yay, I'm the trainer, I'm supposed to know it all. Right? No, I'm the trainer. I got to make sure everybody gets their results. It's a whole different attitude. And I know, and I've seen bad trainers, and I've seen great trainers, and it all comes down to the attitude of, why are you walking into the room? And so it is very much akin to what you're describing in the military, Jim, is that when you are promoted, you are taking on greater responsibilities for the people under you, as well as for the people above you. So, yeah.
Right. Well, but again, and like I said, I mean, and that mindset of authority, responsibility, accountability has shaped who I very much am. And so that applies, again, you buy a big truck, that's you have the power to do that, but you also are responsible to the environment. You have to think about the impact, the accountability for that sort of thing. And it's not just, it's about leadership. I don't buy a big truck. I drive a Mini Cooper. but again, it's not just that. It's in all aspects of life. And we don't, the military stopped teaching that a long time ago. And they went with, because it's difficult. It's difficult to get people to understand that authority comes from responsibility and accountability. And it's a hell of a lot easier to teach the business leadership model of the day, whether it's total quality management or it's ISO 9000 or whatever bullshit, Six Sigma, whatever bullshit buzzword bingo it is today. And those things may or may not work in the civilian world, but they sure as hell don't work in the military. And they're not even good tools. They say, well, it doesn't really work in the military, but they're tools for your tool bag. And listen, man, making Gantt charts and fishbone diagrams was never anything that helped me in the goddamn military. What helped me was the understanding that leadership comes with responsibility, accountability, and authority. And again, you see that here in our nation today, where the people who want the authority, but they don't want the responsibility or to be accountable for it. Trump is very much the epitome of that mindset. He wants all the power and none of the responsibility. And this is very much a libertarian mindset. Libertarians want all the benefits of civilization and none of the responsibilities. They want to be able to drink Coke and then throw the can out the window for somebody else to clean up. And that's very much a libertarian mindset. And again, I think 90% of the problems you see in this country come from that mindset of this massive consumerism, this idea that your worth is measured, that worth and happiness and compassion and satisfaction are all zero-sum games. Anybody else gets more, you get less. The only way that a lot of Americans can feel good about themselves is that everybody else be miserable. You have to have the biggest truck, the loudest gun, the biggest stereo system, the hottest babe, the buffest dude. And Americans by and large are a miserable bunch of bastards who are never happy. Well, they're never happy because they were told never to be happy. And this isn't just consumerism. This isn't just Elon Musk telling you got to have a new Tesla every month. This is also.
Oh, let me tell you something about Tesla. Tesla is.
Let me hang on a sec. Hang on a sec. This is also this pervasive religion that I live amongst down here, where the preacher man tells you that you're a miserable, rotten son of a bitch, that the only way that you can be happy is to give him money, is to accept Jesus. But it's not the Jesus of feed the hungry, clothe the poor, heal the sick. It's the Jesus of hate all the gay people, hate all the liberals, hate the guy, hate these people, hate those people. And it's this you have a whole shitload of powerful people and powerful entities telling you that you need to be miserable all the time in order to be happy.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Let me tell you something about Tesla. Tesla is not in the auto business. They are not. They are in the business of selling clean air coupons. So other automakers, because the Tesla doesn't pollute, so they can buy the coupons from the other automakers who continue to build the polluting machines, so that they create this illusion of carbon neutrality. But Tesla is not in the business of making working cars. That's just the excuse for buying the coupons.
Yeah, the thing is, other car manufacturers, Ford in particular, has figured that out. They've got this massive investment in EVs where they're going to be selling carbon credits themselves and getting a chunk of that change. And the thing is, again, Tesla's never been, Tesla was always a status symbol. It was always a thing. And again, you were talking earlier about people like Musk being disconnected from reality. Well, there's no greater example of that than that fucking Cybertruck. Oh my God, man. I don't want to live in a future designed by billionaires, on ketamine, who vision of the future is some dystopian 1970s B movie, because that's where that thing came from. But this is literally the future that they have, like these Soviet windowless brutalist architecture. I mean, that's literally what the Cybertruck looks like. Soviet brutalist architecture.
It is one of the ugliest. I have seen dumpsters, the big bins that look more attractive than the Cybertruck. I found a quote I want to share. The Republicans are the party of "I've got mine, now I want yours too."
Right. Yeah, it is. But I said that the Cybertruck, and I see now where everybody's commenting about the Cybertruck. Yeah, and again, the Cybertruck is a symptom of larger things. It's that you look at the Cybertruck, which is supposed to be a billionaire's vision of the future. It doesn't do anything worth the shit. It's ugly as hell. It's this limited, brutalist chunk of geometry. Like David said, it looks like a dumpster on wheels. To me, every time I see it, what it looks like to me is it looks like Soviet brutalist architecture. If any of you have ever been in communist countries back during the Soviet bloc, Poland, built by the Soviet on wheels. It's this ugly square box, but it's more than that. It's not reliable. It doesn't do any of the things that it was promised to do. It's not good at anything. It's just this massive hunk of goddamn ugly metal that's lousy at everything. And but it's good at one thing. It's good at separating Americans with too much money from their money. It's good at separating people who think with their dick, from their money. It's good at separating insecure men who measure their manhood against the other guy next to them at the urinal from their money. That's what the Cybertruck is good for. And that's not just the truck. That's a symptom of a larger sickness within this society that Musk himself is very good at tapping into. And, and it's not just Musk. I mean, the king of that mindset is Donald Trump. This is a guy who's got everything, who lives in a golden penthouse on top of a tower, who's married to a succession of models. And if you like that sort of thing, there's nothing that guy is wanting for. And yet, every day he wants something, because he is constantly standing at the urinal comparing himself to the man next to him. There is not enough money in the world. There's not enough power. There's not enough control of enough nuclear weapons. There are not enough covers of time. There are not enough dictators shaking his hand to make that guy satisfied with himself. He's a sad, pathetic who is constantly comparing his manhood to everybody else. But he's not the only one. The whole goddamn country is like this. I mean, I don't know how Dodge can make a bigger truck. Like I said, I drive a Mini Cooper. I don't feel like my manhood is challenged in any fashion whatsoever. But I pull up to a light and I am surrounded by a wall of steel, of Silverados and Rams that are so goddamn big. I don't even know how. These guys literally have to have cameras on the bumper to see if they're running over their fucking children in the driveway because they can't see over the hood. And it's one guy in an 8-ton behemoth, and that guy's madder than hell about the price of diesel fuel.
But let me share a story with you.
The entire country is convinced this guy that if he doesn't drive that truck, he's not a man. He's a sissy, a cunt.
Back in the 60s, let me share that. Back in the 60s, the Volkswagen Bug was very, very popular. And some of the other cars that came along, like the Renault Dauphine, which broke down a lot. But my dad bought one for my mom, a Renault Dauphine. It was so light. One day I forgot to set the parking brake and it started rolling down the driveway. And I ran out, got behind it, and pushed it to a stop. See? And I was only like 16 at the time, right? Now that was, because we didn't think a car was an impossible thing. Nowadays, the cars and trucks, you can't buy anything that couldn't have been used in World War II to haul troops. And and I wouldn't get in front of or behind or even beside any of those vehicles without a serious amount of trepidation. Because Detroit discovered you could sell big iron, and that people with small penises needed big iron.
Right, and it's not just, that's a very true statement. It was easy to play on those people and make a huge profit off those trucks. And we just keep making the trucks bigger and bigger. They don't get smaller. They're not getting more reliable. They're not getting more fuel efficient. They're not getting, the measure is mass, tonnage. And again, this is all these things relate. This is, you're getting close to the mindset of nations at the turn of the last century. There was nations built battleships, massive battleships, and the ultimate expression of that was the German High Seas Fleet and the British Royal Fleet, and they built these. Nations went bankrupt building these fleets of battleships. I mean, they literally went bankrupt, and there was only one battle ever fought between major capital ships, and that was the Battle of the Jutland Peninsula in the First World War, because the ships were so expensive. And that's why they call them capital ships, because they were a significant chunk of capital, that if you lost one, it was an enormous blow to your nation's treasury and defense. And so you really couldn't risk these ships in battle against each other. Raid around to show off your power and your big gun sticking up, but in reality, you didn't dare risk them. And there's a whole long doctrine that there's a guy out of the Naval Academy that this was all named after. But that's why you saw when World War II came along, the battleships, while they served certain purposes for shore bombardment and that sort of thing, they never fought each other. And they faded away, and we replaced those ships. And everybody thought, it's foolish. We shouldn't have built all those things. And now we're building other things. We're building $1 trillion B-20. What the hell is that? Is that the warning? Is that the 5-minute warning?
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock. I have this wonderful clock that chimes on the hour.
Well, I got you. But so now you see that on a smaller scale with every in America who's got to have the biggest goddamn truck and a train full of jet skis and the toy hauler and the McMansion. They can't afford any of this shit. I mean, these people are bitching about the price of eggs, but you're driving an $80,000 truck that look, I realize that the ads show you hauling bales of hay with the hot babe in the passenger seat with a trailer full of I don't know, construction equipment up the side of a mountain. But literally none of you are doing that. You're not John Dutton. You're not running the Yellowstone, man. You're commuting to your goddamn job at Walmart. You can't afford this fucking truck. You can't afford the house that you live in. The jet skis. My God, man.
Yeah,
This is the.
I will tell you, there are, here in Vermont, we're in a very rural area, and I can understand somebody needing a truck or a snowblower or a ATV because you need it for getting around in the woods and whatever. But somebody who's living, like you say, somebody who's living, we left California. You get on the freeway in the morning and you to go run errands or even a surface street, and you're surrounded by these big trucks, and it's like, and what do? They're going to Vons. They're going to Walmart. So what do you need?
They're going to Cinnabon and to get a Starbucks coffee cup. And this is the thing. I mean, I'm literally, I'm literally looking at a guy the other day standing in line somewhere who's holding a grande Starbucks coffee cup, because why would you get anything less than the biggest monster goddamn cup? And then the grande, it's not grande. What's the big one? I don't know what the big one is. Anyway, the guy's holding this massive cup. Now this is a $12 coffee, and the guy's bitching about the price of eggs. Like, for God's sake, piss off the price of eggs. For Christ's sake, you're holding a $12 coffee, and you're going to go out and you're getting your $80,000 truck to go home and watch your 74-inch curved Samsung TV that costs $4,000, and you're bitching about the price of eggs. That's why you voted for fascism? Got to be shitting me, man. Who told you this stuff? Oh, wait, the billionaires. Sure, because we can trust what they say, right? I mean, Elon Musk gives a shit about the price of eggs, right? Right? But this is the world that we live in. Well, he's got to be smart. He's got a lot of money. I mean, why would you listen to some economist or some poor scientist somewhere when you could listen to the richest guy in the world? He's got to be smart, right? He owns a bunch of rocket ships. None of you people ever read Highline, for Christ's sake. I swear to God, man. Just Jesus. But anyway, I could go on about this all day, but you guys are probably sick of hearing about it. I wanted to say, if any of you were out there, anybody that's watching was out at SMOFCon here a couple weeks ago, where I was the guest speaker. I really appreciate you guys showing up. It was a great convention. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for coming.
So, Bob, anyway, don't you have Bob? Don't you have a book to plug? Isn't there some book you want to tell people about?
He did that at the beginning. I think you were still offline then, but he should plug it again. He should definitely plug it again. Oh man, you can tell he's a nuke, man. He can't handle technology. You're not talking about Bob. You got no. There's no volume on your end, buddy.
Yeah, I like the cover. That's a really great cover.
Yeah, that's a great cover. But you're muted on your end, Bob. No. Well, anyway, I'll since Bob's kind of muted there, David Nye and Brenda Cooper, a bunch of other cool people have stories in that book, Alternative Liberties. It's not it's our usual anthology type stuff. Should be pretty great. I know that and Bob and I have mentioned this a couple times, and I talked about it a little bit at SMOFCom here 2 weeks ago. There's not a lot of avenues for publishing this sort of thing. So these books are published through, in most cases, things like Amazon. And I know a number of you have issues with that, but we and we understand that. And there's nothing I hate more than giving Jeff Bezos money, but there are certain avenues that are available and not a lot of other ones for people like us. We offset that though. All the authors in these books take our payment up front, and then all they make off this, instead of going to us, which would be the normal vehicle, they are Bob donates them all to the ACLU to fight against people like Jeff Bezos. And so if that helps your conscience by buying these books off of Amazon, well, then get your ass over there to buy some books, because it helps all of us out, and it actually helps promote the causes that most of you find important. So
yeah, and
this is the reality. The world that we live in is complicated, folks. Nothing's ever easier, black and white. There's no straightforward morality, ethics, principles. These things are all complicated, and we do the best that we can to offset that stuff. And um,
Let
thank
me
you,
let me
Gerrold. You've
add
done
this.
it.
You can follow
Yeah.
Jim Wright on Patreon and Facebook,
Yeah,
and
please
where
do.
else you can follow me on Facebook and Patreon. And so all three of us intend to be voices for sanity in the insanity to come. So
Yeah.
thank you all for being a part of it.
Yeah, and like I said, the world's a complicated place that we live in. We all have to fight and resist the way that we can and what works for us. And so, again, if you like this sort of thing and you like this sort of content, then by all means, Patreon, PayPal, those things you can find those things on my website, on David's websites. You can do things like buy books from BQ Press. All of those things go to support the causes that you guys say you believe in, and I believe you, because otherwise, why would you put up with listening to us for an hour? And we very much appreciate you. But these are all small things people ask. What can we do? Not everybody jumps out of an airplane with a knife between their teeth. Sometimes it's the small things. Sometimes it's buying a book somewhere, and we're gonna have to. Fine, I don't have any answers. David had said a while back, guys like Jim Wright. Well, I don't know what the answer. I said this at SMOFCon. I don't know what the answers are. I've been sitting here thinking about it since the election. The answers are not one big answer. They're a bunch of small answers. The biggest answer, though, is you got to show up. And too many of us didn't. And it's not just this election. It's the last 20 elections. It's the little elections. It's the elections for school board and dog catcher. It's the big elections. It's all the elections in between. There's too many of us that did not and do not show up. So if you're looking for a way to make a difference, start there. Work your way out. I think that's it for us, Bob. It's probably about time to pull the plug on it. What do you say, David?
Yep, I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Thank you all.
Bob, yeah, you're dead. Your mic's dead, Bob. So if you can hear us, great. But it's probably time to pull the plug here. I feel like I'm a goddamn camera for the next 3 hours.
Well, I am going to. You can't see. I'm going to find out why my camera wasn't working today. So I am going to leave now. So
all right.